I know she don't even really be on like that. Let's see. So,
Peace,
peace to the
peace.
guys. What up,
How's it
though?
going, my brother?
Got that old. Hey, yeah, I was just saying, I ain't mean to scare you with the title, but I had kind of like juxtaposed, like I always do. I keep my promo, my marketing organic, to the point it don't even feel like marketing to me. It just be my life. And you know, me and you just had a conversation, which we're not gonna get into, but we're gonna get into the general aspects of the post I put up earlier. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, I did.
About, and it's crazy. Like during this season, I was just reading a few posts on Facebook. A lot of people were saying, I want to change everything about my life right now. Like whether things are working or stale or stagnant or whatever it is, like you know what's going on in the celestial bodies and the cosmos. It's inflicting a lot of intense shift all at the same time right now.
Mm-hmm.
So with that pain comes epiphany. And it was something I realized earlier that I feel like correlates to this retreat that we're about to do, the self-mastery retreat. So before I dig into, you know, my perspective on it, you being a feminine energy, and those of y'all that may not know Kati from my end, if y'all haven't been to one of my events or to any of the Zeal Creative Studios classes, you may not know all the practitioners that are incorporated into our family. So if you don't know, Journey with Kati, as we call her, is a phenomenal practitioner. She does a lot of work with herbs and medicines and tribal ritualistic aspects. Very in tune. Does her own one-on-one sessions. So before we do anything, just you know, give them a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you before we get into the
Yeah,
topic.
no, most definitely. So blessings, peace, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining us live here. I know we're in some really potent times right now that honestly we're being invited to really claim our power back. And so my mission and my purpose and my movement is all about power retrieval, soul retrieval. And the medicine and the tools I work with is on an elemental basis. So I work with the elements. I am an Ayurvedic and Chinese practitioner, Chinese medicine practitioner. And also I do a lot in the counseling realm. You know, it's a blend of holistic and transpersonal psychology, shamanism. So, you know, what brought me into this work? My personal journey. And, you know, Brother Docs here knows, you know, what brings us into our mission and our work, our personal journey, where our spirit brought us to, what is like, it's our self-mastery. And this is where we end up owning who we are through what was our own self-realizations. So yeah, so it's just, I can go on with this because
And can you real quick,
yeah.
just tell them what Ayurveda is? Just a little brief description, because a lot of people have never heard of that or don't understand what it is. Can you just go in a little bit? I'm gonna turn my air conditioner off.
Yeah, so Ayurveda is the science of life. That is the definition when it comes down to, it's a medicine out in India, and it's all based in the elements. So they seen that how can we see the elements outside of us and how can we see it within us? So it's very an empowering practice that comes from India. And if y'all are familiar with yoga, meditation, you know, this is all rooted together. And so Ayurveda is pulling on the elements and recognizing, where did my soul chose to be? Be more fire, be more air, be more water, be more earth. And then that's how we end up really like recognizing, wow, I am part of the earth because I show these elements too. So Ayurveda is all about, the title and the definition is the science of life. And that's where we're coming at right now. It's like, how are we recognizing that we are a science of life in existence? You know, we talk about the cosmos in us. We talk about the universe as part of us. And so that's where it really gets us into a deeper dive into our own embodiment of the elements. So it's a little brief touch on
And,
it.
no, that's perfect. Like as unrelated as it may seem. So you take something like Ayurvedic medicine, and it's something that I've dabbled in for the past few years. Of course, I'm not an expert on it like you. But it's one of the things that kind of correlates to self-mastery because everybody's in this vegan way. Everybody want to be plant-based and vegan. And according to Ayurveda, which is an ancient medicine, that doesn't fit everybody's energy, right? There's certain elements that a certain person may need as opposed to somebody like me who can like really thrive off a lot of fruits and vegetables. Some people may flat out need meat. Some people need more fire in their diet. Some people need more coolness in their diet. And self-mastery is about first understanding and getting a higher awareness of who you are, first and foremost. Before you want to pick up all these esoteric books and put on a spiritual garb and all of that, one of the reasons I relate to Kati so much, because on different ends of the spectrum, our approach is based in our dedication to self-mastery. So outside of what you may see us doing a certain session in a class, see us on these posters and see me in front of 100 people, those aren't of course, those moments are beautiful. And people have been asking me this week, practitioners, like, yo, what is it like to be in the eye of that? And I expressed to them that the moments that nobody sees, right? The moments where it's literally just me and source digging into seeing more of myself, those are the moments that turn into the reflection of hundreds of people, successful events coming from all over the country. That doesn't happen without that level of self-mastery. And that's often a step that I feel like a lot of us, whether people who are just coming into being quote unquote woke or people who've been practitioners for years, a lot of us want to bypass that consistent dedication to self-mastery. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Boy, you kind of touched on all of it. So, okay. We tend to believe that we have it all figured out. You know, we tend to believe that, all right, I know who I am. I know this is me. This, that. And then we end up limiting ourselves, believing that we already know who we are, what we are capable of. And by that limitation, it doesn't allow us to actually see beyond. And then this is where, when we feel discomforts in our body, if we feel discomforts in our mind, in our spiritual body, in our emotional body, that right there is spirit. That right there is your soul that is craving for growth, craving to be like, yo, let's look beyond the limitations. And so, you know, when we have that tendency to really believe that we have it all figured out, we're actually holding ourselves back. And that's where spirit, that's where soul growth comes in to invite us, like, yo, there's a lot more to you than what you believe. Because let me tell you, when people say, I know you, I know what you do, I know who you are, and be like, hold on, how you know me? I'm still getting to know who I am. No matter how long I've been on this journey, no matter how long I've been on this self-awareness journey, I've been in it for like almost 20 years. But within the practice professionally and being able to share the medicine, about 11, 12 years, you know? So at the end of the day is recognizing that, hey, there's a part of you that you may be able to witness in me. And that's why I love it. The fact that like we're reflections of one another. So how can we witness each other in it? And that is bringing up the tools of self-mastery. The self-mastery is recognizing that, yeah, we're a complete reflection of each other. And how can we hold that space? So our soul, and, you know, many cultures, many traditions, you know, has rites of passage, has initiations, you know, and we've been out of that for how long? How many generations has that skipped out of our space, that we haven't been initiated through the changes from adolescence to a teenager, from teenager to an adult, you know? So we are experiencing that on a very soul deep level. And right now, honestly, we're experiencing on a collective level, a huge initiation.
Which makes it even crazier.
So right now, like even the essence of self-mastery, like we're being pushed to recognize more of who we are. We're being pushed and being invited to own more of who we are. And that right there is where the power lies. It's like, okay, who am I? And that's honestly, that's like one of the main first steps. Who am I? And recognizing not to limit yourself. Like, I am my car, I'm my house, I got my hobbies. Like, no, just continue to go in and ask that question, because that's a deep dive into the self, you know, because you end up pulling up shadows. Like one of the posts I recently pushed, that there's unclaimed power within one's shadow. Sometimes when we hit the shadow work and we're being triggered as shit and we're like, yo, this is fucked up, this is happening, you know, and right there.
I'm going through that right now.
Exactly. And right there is where the power lies. It's more of like going deep. and honoring that space. Because when there's some deepness, the soul experiences like, oh, we're about to go through initiation right now. You know, it's an invitation to really reclaim our power. And that's one of the biggest things, is that how can we honor those moments of heaviness and darkness and give ourselves that space to witness and to be seen within ourselves.
And it's crazy that you say that, because you know I'm still part human for those who think I'm not, bro. Like, I know I'm always saying I am and pushing people to the brink of their idea of themselves, but this human experience is still necessary and it's still a layer and a part of source. So I'm never looking to disassociate that. It's just that we spend so much time out of that. I'm here. Part of my purpose is to really push people to see something beyond just flesh and blood and brain. But I love battle rap. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people may not know this about me. And it's crazy because I was just watching an interview with this guy who has a battle rap show. And he was talking about, he just got accused, matter of fact, of a friend of mine that I know. A lot of us know from the community that I used to go to Blueberry Cafe. He got accused of raping this girl that we all know. And the initial accusations didn't really turn into anything. And initially, like, the whole battle rap community was jumping on him, but it's kind of panned out, and it's seeming like he may not have done it. I don't know how it's really going to go, but he was just, I say all that to say that he was saying he realizes that life is like a video game. And remember back in the day, whatever your favorite video game was, especially the role player games, certain stage super hard when you first start. Then you start to figure out, all right, if I do this kick, I could get rid of that ghost. If I do this punch, and then you get to the end of the board, and by the time you get there, it's comfortable. You could just fly through it, but then you got to go to the next stage and face the next boss. So life kind of plays out like that, and that question, who am I, can never become stagnant, because who I was before this conversation started won't be who I will be when it ends. Every single second as new data, new information comes in, we shift into different waveforms. Mm-hmm. A lot of times in spirituality, I see a lot of us kind of plateau at wanting to stay in bliss all the time, wanting to stay peaceful all the time. I had to cancel a few of my clients last week, and if y'all on here, thank you for your patience. But I couldn't honor the waveform of Docs, the guru or the guide or the teacher in that moment, because I had to reconcile with my own shadow. And like you said, the power that's hidden in that, I wouldn't have been able to get to that epiphany that I posted earlier about feminine and masculine energy without accepting that wave too, and understanding this is not all daffodils and roses and being in front of 150 people teaching a class. It's those dark snot bubble moments nobody really want to talk about. Yeah. And that's a huge part of self-mastery. You wanted to interject?
Yeah, huge, because, you know, those dark moments is giving us the time to really, again, reclaiming the parts of ourselves that has been set to the dark, right? Set to the side. Yeah. Parts of us that even within our own childhood, you know, we were raised up. And actually, let me just pull back a little bit. As a child, our imagination is so expansive, right? We're able to imagine, we're able to see, and there's no fear, there's no hesitation. And we have so much trust that essence and that spirit of trust allows us to see more. But then when the structures of, you know, how our society is, how our family is, you know, we were like, you know, grow up, suck it up. You know, a lot of that, the child feels everything. That's why, like, the first 7 years of a child is really powerful. It's something that you really want to, like, make sure you are promoting and helping them, but like, yo, keep imagining, keep opening up that mind's eye, but through your own creativity and through your movement, you know. And that part right there, a lot of us had to grow up pretty fast. And so we had to suppress that part of us. And that suppression means that you're putting those parts of yourself into the shadows, into the darkness. And so when we experience those moments of what they would say, like the darkest night of the soul, you know, the death of the ego, you know, when we end up experiencing so much dying, we're actually like opening up a gateway. When we give it space, we open up a gate where light shines into that shadow, so that shadow part can be seen. Because when it don't get seen, it seemed like a demon. It seemed like something that is just fucked up. It seemed like something like, why is this happening to me? Why do I feel like this? And, you know, honestly, this is where we have to recognize there's a balance of feminine and masculine, right? This is, I want to turn it back to what you were sharing, like the feminine and masculine. So what's beautiful is that the feminine and the essence of the feminine is all about the darkness. It's all about the unconscious realms. That's why a lot of women are really pulled to like really dive in. And then we also witness it within when there's breakups. When there's breakups, women, a good percentage of women kind of hold back from jumping into a relationship right away.
Right.
And men is like, nope, up to the next. Distraction,
Right.
you know, distraction, unable to really be in that space. So, you know, when we see these realms and we see these balances of feminine and masculine, this is where, how can we see it within ourselves, not just in our outer world? How can we see that there's parts of ourselves that likes to be seen, masculine,
Right.
and there's a parts of ourselves that don't want to be seen, but it's meant to be seen and witnessed and held in a very sacred space. And that's where, when we go into that sacred space, we're allowing transition. We're allowing an initiation, a beginning of something to grow, something to change, and then also a dying of the old, you know, that old story. So it's definitely a huge dance. It's a dance. It's an ongoing dance that we experience.
And that's what I said in the post too. That dance of divine feminine and divine masculine, which we call life. And that's why I always say, like, darkness and healing, I think, get ineffective connotations. And like you just said, what we attribute to a demon or an angel is just those enlightened pieces of ourselves that we've been able to see and see the love within it. And then the darkness is those things. It's not evil. Darkness is just things you haven't seen yet. So the process of healing isn't about necessarily needing to fix something. There are, and of course, in this physical surface layer of life, it seems like so many things got to be fixed and recalibrated, but life knows what it's doing beyond the particular components, me, you, my job, my car getting it, whatever it may be, the components are happening in an order that we can't make out from these peephole perspectives, right? But when you start to see more of yourself, you start to see more of the grid. And I was just walking to my house, and y'all know I'm super transparent. I didn't feel like doing this live. Like, I'm still working through a lot of stuff, but it's interesting because I always say I don't really have the quote unquote luxury of feeling sorry for myself. Right, man, you was talking the other day, and it doesn't mean I'm bypassing what I got to face, but I don't have the luxury of feeling sorry for myself or cursing God or being mad at the particular experience, because I've had enough experience with these expansions and contractions, going to the next boss and knowing from beating this boss and going to that space in between, that's when the whole kitchen sink is going to come at you. It's going to feel like, bro, this is too much, too fast, universe. Just chill. Let me catch my breath. And universe is like, nah, you would like to see this next aspect of yourself. It got to come in these waves. So that healing part, especially again in the spiritual community, I see a lot of us, and I understand the prescription of being a healer and helping the people to heal, but it's not to fix anything within themselves. It's just to shine a light that you've gathered on whatever darkness they may still have, to see more of themselves. That doesn't need to be fixed. The hurt I'm experiencing right now doesn't need to be fixed. I need to learn from it, right? All the quote unquote mistakes, the sins, the transgressions that I used to beat myself up for and feel guilty about, I needed every bit, every inch, every iota of those experiences to see this aspect of myself. So I think that's an important thing of why we want to be able to do this self-mastery retreat. And not just for, you know, the quote unquote newbies, but even the experienced practitioners that may have been in this game 20, 30, 40 years and feel like they hitting that glass ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the thing is, it's like, I'm coming back to what I mentioned earlier, is recognizing that there's more of ourselves that we're discovering. There's more of ourselves that we're learning of. And so when we give the space to really recognize that there's more, like, first of all, I want to go into touching really quick, because when I think of ourselves,
you said touching?
I want to just really just say,
okay,
if y'all are familiar of past lives, do you believe this is your first life?
And put it in the comments how y'all feel about that, and we're gonna read some of y'all questions before we done.
So if y'all know, and you know, like, all right, I don't think this is my only life. And so if you know that there's more to this life, and if you don't know, I want for y'all to really sit and begin with, what are your desires? What is your passions? Do you notice that there's perhaps a passion that you have is something like, yo, I love music from the 70s. I love music back. Were you born in the 70s? You know? Oh, I like this type of style. Were you born during that time? You know, so granted, your family, yes, you may have been around it, but your soul has traveled many lifetimes. And this is where we may have already witnessed with children too, of saying like, oh, he's an old soul, she's an old soul. But honestly, every soul that's here has walked this plane, this earth for many lifetimes. It's just recognizing, can you see that, and can you own that you walked this earth many lifetimes, but have you been able to claim that lifetime that you have accomplished during that time? You know? So like when we experience these dark nights of the soul, when we experience these shadows, it's because also those are parts of ourselves that we need to collect, and we need to bring, and we need to own, right? We need to own these parts of myself. I know for myself, I had my own initiation that I experienced when I was 14.
In this particular life cycle?
This lifetime, I left my home at the age of 14, where home was no longer safe for me. You know, at the age of 14, you would think, you know, what's safe for you is the container, the structure, but your parents, right? So having that moment in my life where home was no longer safe, I ended up experiencing something really massive where spirit was my safety, but I didn't know it consciously. You know, so what I experienced at that time, now I'm also alchemical hypnotherapist. I do a lot of past life regression work. And when it came down to my own personal journey, do you know how many lifetimes I experienced something similar to that? Similar to me not like being safe within a space.
Can you explain past life regression real quick?
Yeah, so
anybody know?
Past life regression is a deep practice of meditation. And you're facilitated by a practitioner, hypnotherapist, that either a hypnotherapist or a practitioner that knows how to travel within these realms. And you are guided into those realms to go deeper, further beyond this lifetime, beyond your mother's womb. And so when you are being guided into these realms, into these other parts of the soul, which brings you back to, oh, hold on, my soul lived beyond this lifetime. Your soul's going to guide you to a lifetime that needs to be seen. And so we notice it when we see imbalances in our life. You know, it's like, why can't I be consistent in my work? Why do I not follow through in this? Why am I afraid to sell my products or show up in my business or show up in my purpose? You know, so all of these things, you know, the things that we fear or have hesitations, or even the imbalances that we have, like, you know, it can be with food, it can be with relations. Everything that shows up is also something that has trickled down that perhaps in other lifetimes we weren't able to resolve it. So now it's this current lifetime journey, this medicine, this mission that we're on now. And this is where when we're speaking of self-mastery, we're beginning to also reclaim those parts of ourselves and master them and own them and recognize that these are parts of ourselves that we really need to be owning. And these are parts of ourselves that also needs to be seen and held and healed, you know? So the past life regression, I've seen many lifetimes that I experienced being caged, you know, being enslaved, being taken away of my power, you know? And a lot of us, and especially in this time, we've experienced a lot of removal of our power. And right now we're all experiencing, like I mentioned, on a collective level, is power retrieval. We're in a space of wanting to reclaim our power. And so how are we doing that? What are we doing right now to really reclaim and own our power? And what does that look like? Not in your head,
and that's
right? But in your spirit, in your heart. So
Right, and that's one of the questions I want to go to next. But in reference to what you just said, anybody that may be watching who is like past life regression, bro, like that's what we talking about. As crazy as you may think it seems, think about those moments of deja vu, right? And this is the thing. You may say, okay, if deja vu is a moment I've already experienced, then what does past life or future life have to do with it? And when you are in the perspective of source, that's outside source, whatever you want to call it, that's outside while flowing through physical reality, but it has like almost a bird's eye view. Time is running, low key time doesn't even exist in the deepest realm of source, right? But when you start to walk that bridge from source to being to baby to physical reality in life, time runs concurrent. So you have never experienced a tomorrow, you have never experienced a yesterday. All of this wave is just the same wave that's just going in different wave shapes and forms. So that moment of deja vu is a moment you've already experienced and have yet to experience while experiencing it all at the same time. Like the magic that's in it, that, like you said, we normalize. When we kids and something like that happens, it's like, bro, what just happened? Oh, that's this deja vu. So your mind just immediately compartmentalizes it and say that that's normal. And normal we don't pay attention to. Then you got things like presque vu, which is a less known, which is that tip of the tongue phenomenon. When you know that you know something and you may not know where you know it from, whether this life or previous life, right? So these are all different examples that these timelines are running concurrent, and part of the self-mastery is not just the responsibility of figuring this particular life cycle out. It's about honing in on what may have happened before you came into this grid and chose these different things to experience. One on an individual level, and then two, being that it's such a big collective time, it can't just be marching, it can't just be rioting and protesting. When are we going to take the responsibility to do the work to go heal the self of us that was enslaved, that came over on the ships, that was bound to, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to reconcile with these pieces of ourselves. But if we just inundated with paying the bills, taking care of the family, watching our favorite shows, and there's nothing wrong with this. But if this is how we're going to go through our whole life, I believe Plato or Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. If you're not going to start to examine these other pieces of yourself that are actually a much bigger part of the picture than what you're currently focused on, there's no way you can master this life cycle, create what you want in this life cycle, and heal what's going to happen going forward, as well as what's already happening in the past.
Yeah.
So that yoga, that principle of bringing all these seemingly polar opposites to center, to be able to meet one another, not judge, not you was this, that, none of that. Just be able to see each other and come into cohesion. That's the only reason we have life cycles. And if we're not doing that work, we're kind of missing out. So I wanted to add, did you have anything you wanted to share to that before I ask you this question?
No, it's right on point, brother.
Okay. So leading into starting to talk about the retreat, because they're gonna kick us out of here in like an hour. What does a day of self-mastery look like to you? For people who have no idea what this entails, what does that look like?
What are you talking about personally, or are you talking about retreat?
Personally, what is your self-mastery daily regimen consist of?
Yes. All right. So the first thing is, what is the first battle that we experience in a day? What is my first battle when I experience in a day? Is me opening up my eyes and rising up, right? And so, okay, I achieved that first breath. And what's the next part? Knowing that my spirit, my soul has been traveling within the realms and in the dream world. What is the most important piece is to make sure is to embody myself, the practice of movement, the practice of yoga, the practice of breath work. So claiming and calling my body back, my spiritual body into my body. And so when we do yoga, and this is my practice, right? I'm sharing with you, but then also explaining is that I have to embody myself so that I can be full on ready for the outside world. If I'm unable to do the first battle, which is my breath work, my meditation, my yoga, my embodiment, if I can't accomplish that, how do I expect to accomplish anything outside of my bedroom? You know, how am I able to really accomplish and really overcome the outside world, the war that's outside, the battle that's outside? So it is always coming back to myself. It begins with myself. It begins with the cells of my body. And my cells of my body come in sync when it meets its breath, when I meet my breath, when I meet my stillness, when I meet my movement, when my blood begins to circulate as I do my yoga practice. You know, so we have channels in our bodies. And when we tune those channels and balance them out, we're balancing that feminine and we're balancing that masculine. We're balancing that yin and we're balancing that yang. We're balancing these realms and making sure we are embodying ourselves so that we can fully show up, you know, and however that show up can be. You know, if you're a photographer, if you're a dancer, if you're a cashier, like if you're a counselor, if you're an artist, however, a therapist, a teacher, it brings you more in yourself to move forward in what it is that you need to be. And so the more we're able to really own, so that is my start of my day. And then from there, it goes to medicines. Food is my medicine, right? And that's how I see it. What am I feeding my body? I begin with a nice cup of hot chai tea. There's no caffeine. I don't need no caffeine. Actually, as soon as I rise up, my energy is so boost. I haven't had caffeine ever, but
she is lit, by the way. You know, you gave some to God, so I got to say something. So the chai tea is lit.
Yeah, and that's without the caffeine, because when we begin to cycle our energy and really move it, we actually have our natural flow of energy that's boosting us up. That's our natural caffeine, right? And so I started with my tea, and I make sure that my body is really building up that fire. And then also it meets the natural fire that began through my movement. And then from there, my tea, then my nourishment, and then from there, my day, you know?
Right.
So it's honestly, it's always meeting and having a balance and consistency. And my consistency is that battle, is to make sure I'm consistent in my practice. And if for any reason, when life ends up throwing a curveball, I take a moment, I'm like, okay, I guess this is the moment for me to pause right now. Let me take it easy, you know, and that's okay. That is a completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And let me tell you, I have many moments of that. And I appreciate those moments because it's given me an opportunity to pause even longer and to really see what needs to be seen. So, yeah.
And then I would say for myself, very similar. Being a little, having, I guess, more masculine energy, linear, logical, right? And I do movement. I don't necessarily do yoga, asanas, postures, and all of that. I'm more into Qigong. That's my form of movement. And then, of course, working out. But this is one of the things that I've discovered just being home for the last, I guess, week and a half and completely working for myself now, having to like, all right, I can only get this much done a day because I got to go to work and I do all this other stuff. So the things that couldn't be compromised, the first thing I do when I wake up and my body starts to revitalize and the great spirit, if you will, starts to condense into the micro version of itself that we know as Doc's Brick City Buddha. The first thing I do is to not be fooled, to not be tricked by the illusion of physical reality. The first thing I do is when I revitalize, I remind myself this is not all there is. I remind myself of the realm I just came from. These quote unquote dreams were, and this is the thing with dreams, these are experiences that are so valid, that are so quote unquote real according to our idea of real, that if I was to if I had a machine where I could pop into whoever's watching, if I could pop into your dream and I tapped you on the shoulder while you was having sex with Beyonce or spending your $1 billion, whatever you was doing in your dream, I say, hey, you know you're dreaming right now, right? You would look at me like, man, get out of here, bro. Like, I'm living life. So what's the difference between something that real while there's no sensory perception data coming in, but you're still projecting these experiences and there's still something within you that's able to still witness that? What's the difference between the dream reality and the wakeful reality? So the first thing I do before I move, before I even open my eyes, is remind myself the other side of myself that I just came from. You know what I'm saying? From that point, it goes to, of course, daddy duties if I got to do that. Clean up the house, which I've developed a connection with just cleaning. I probably clean and do more of the quote unquote feminine, womanly duties than anybody in the house. And I enjoy doing that. Like I'm compelled to just come sweep, to come start to wash the dishes, From that point, once I have structure in my house, I gotta meditate. I gotta go back to that place while I'm in the physical body and bring those energies into what I need in this moment to create my day. And then from that point, I just live my life. And I usually meditate a few times a day. I make sure I work out. I take my walks. I even take midnight walks now. But movement, stillness, staying connected to the awareness that docs is not all there is, and then fulfilling what docs needs to do in this realm. And that may take many different shades and shapes from day to day, but that's the core of my regimen. And that's what this retreat is really about, because when people talk about these things in a floaty way, it's like, okay, that sounds nice, but how do I bring it into my home? How do I bring it into my regimen? How do I give this to my family? Mm-hmm. And then when you start to see the effects of it, it's not just a chore. It's not just something you have to do. You start to develop a love for it. And once it becomes a love thing, then you start to see it reflected into your world. And oh snap, we got 200 people gravitating towards what we're doing because they sense that we are connected to those other pieces of ourselves that a lot of people aren't, that may not have that level of magnetism right now, but they do have access to, which is why we're doing this retreat.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about the retreat itself. We got a few offers for y'all that's in here. If you guys do have any questions about what we talked about, we got about 20 minutes left, so dump your questions and we'll read some of them. But let's talk about the retreat itself. So if you want to go in and just give some basics on the retreat.
Yeah, so the retreat it's going to
Yeah, I was bringing you back. You see me over here? I was pulling you back into the portal, right?
It's going to be a treat for the self, you know, because sometimes we don't create that space for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean a treat for the self is just like, when we prepare a space, and I'm referring to like even in our individual realms within our own space, like, all right, how often do you pause, right? And how often can we pause with others that is also raising up their frequency, their vibration, and wanting to meet this part? And it begins literally with intentional ceremony, a ceremony that's going to begin that start of your ownership of who you are. And we are going to be tapping into practices, and we are going to recognize like, okay, can I do this at home on a regular basis? So we're going to have some practices and tools, and of course it's going to be up to you, right? It's going to be up unto the souls that are coming in to recognize, am I ready? And honestly, we're never going to feel like we're ready. We're never going to feel like we're ready. It's just up to us if we want to take that next step into a realm that feels unknown, or do we want to get smacked across the head with the realm unknown? And we're creating a space where, hey, we're creating a space where let's dive into the unknown, but we also are facilitators to facilitate you into your unknown, where you have practices that when you are on your own, you know what to pull on. You know what are the tools to assist you in those times of unknown, in those times that feels like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm dropping it. I don't even want to feel anymore. You know, so that's where we're going to be going in, and we're going to be tapping into the shadows. We're going to tap into the depths, but of course we're going to tap into the light, but we're going to tap it back into the dark, because that right there is the self-work. The self-work and the self-worth. Like, you have to recognize, you coming into the space, how worthy do you find yourself to create that space for yourself? That's where we need to recognize, like, all right, am I worth to create a retreat for myself, to come in, knowing that this space, that like this container that's being created for us, that not only are we going to be around other people, but we're also going to be around, and we're going to be with Mother Earth. So I just want to share this piece, is that, like I mentioned earlier, is that cultures and traditions had at the age of about like 12 to 13 years, they would remove their child, you know, the elders remove the child from the home and go through initiation of change. and they're sent out to the woods to then find their way back on their own. And so that was a process of initiation. Right now, we're coming into a space where the retreat, we're coming back to Mother Earth. In that initiation right there, we're already starting the intentions of let's come back to the earth. Because a good percentage of us are still perhaps even holding on to our mother wounds and our father wounds. You know, and we see it on a very generational level too, of like, damn, I'm carrying up all this shit that's tied in, that's been, you know, I'm seeing the imbalances that my mother had or my father had or my great grandmother had, you know, like, so that right there, when we begin to create the space for change, and we're coming to the earth and coming to Father's sky, we're saying, okay, Mother, okay, Father, help me, because I'm here to own more of myself.
Right.
So it's you know, again, to even explain how this retreat is going to be is beyond words.
Right.
It's more of the intentions and the drive. You have to tap into your heart. You feel it. You feel a little nudge toward it, like, yo, I feel that, but I don't got the money. I feel that. But you know, and you know what? I invite y'all to really say that. I want to go, but I'm kind of limited.
Right.
How can I help? Because let me tell you, we're in the time right now that we're meant to rise up together.
Right.
So don't let money be in the way for y'all, because I'm pretty sure that if y'all need a cop something, you're going to figure out about cop
You're gonna find a way.
You know?
And it's crazy that you say that real quick, because most of us is probably people of a certain age. I got some young bucks on here too, but for these type of conversations, it's mostly adults. So 10 Commandments used to come on every Easter, you know what I'm saying? Charlton Heston, and me going to that retreat in Florida, like I had been in the 5-week course online. I had developed these connections with these people virtually. But when the opportunity came up that we was going to be able to come together down in Florida, initially it was like, yeah, I want to go. I don't have no money, right? And a way was made for me. Two of the people that was in the group with me that had never met me in completely other states paid for my trip, paid for my plane ticket, paid for me to be there for that weekend. And from that point, it was one thing to start to develop my own connection with spirit and trying to figure things out on myself with my own energy. But going into that 3-day retreat, I'll never forget, we was literally in there from 5 o'clock every morning for a weekend, 5 o'clock every morning, literally into 2, 3 o'clock into the next morning. Go to the Airbnb, get 2 hours of sleep, come right back. And the version of me that came there wasn't ready for that, right? But when I was in it, the knowledge was so soul quenching. It was like, bro, I don't need to sleep for this whole weekend. The energy I got charged up with was just different. And when I came back, it was like Charlton Heston when he had came back with the commandments. His hair was fried now. He looked like a completely different being. That's how I came back to New Jersey. And that's what started the impetus of my classes, meditation, education, manifesting this tribe with all of y'all and getting to these points where we're able to crank these things out. None of that happens without me locking into my self-mastery, without me taking a leap of faith, without saying, God, I do want to go, but I may not have the money in my pocket. Make a way. And that way being made, going all the way to ATL on a plane ticket, 6 hours to Florida, and ending up right where I needed to be at that time to be catapulted into this version of myself and all the things that have come with it. So a lot of people go on vacation at the end of the summer, and our type of vacation, you need a vacation from vacation. This is not that. You may show up with a mate, and this one is more so for the adults. You may have ones going forward where you can bring the kiddies in, but this is for the adults. So even if you show up with your mate, like Kati said, even if your partner's right there, this is about you. This is about yourself, even if your partner is right there. And no couples therapy, no counseling session that I could even do with a couple is going to mean more than what you do for yourself that then bleeds back into your relationship, bleeds back into your family, into your community, and you're going to realize a weekend like this, what it can do for the entire world once you start with your own world. So just for some basic stuff, August 7th to the 9th, right? We will be starting 3:30. So August 7th, which is a Friday.
Check-in's going to be from 3:30 to 6:30. Then we have our open ceremony right after. So that's why the check-in is really important, to make sure you guys get settled in. And if you can't make it at 3:30, it's fine. But as long as you arrive right before open ceremony, which is going to be literally sharp right after 6:30 hits. And yeah, we have set dorms and tents for women and set dorms and tents for men. So it's something that, again, it's, if couples come, great. Just also on that note, we are doing a group rate, you know. So if you know that you have 2, 3, 4, 5 people that wants to join, let us know, shoot a message, because again, we're here to make sure that we are all growing together and we're rising up together. And so, yeah, and don't hesitate. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you really want to go, and you know, because let me tell you, we need help in this too.
Right.
You know, this
Absolutely.
is a big mission here that we're on, and we're on it together. And just like how, you know, brother, you were saying, is that we're going to be rippling out our healing out to the world, out to the earth, out to each other. So we are rippling that up by our own self-realization. We're going to see change. We're going to witness that change, but it begins with us. And it begins within our internal witnessing, and that internal action of what we're creating, that space that we create for our change.
Right. And just envision this. Let's say you get your ticket, right? And you coming from the inner city, you coming from Newark, New York, Philly, right? And you start to pull into East Stroudsburg. I can't give the exact location yet till y'all get y'all tickets. But you pull up and you turn your car off. And the first thing you're going to notice is, just like I put in my video, I don't hear no gunshots. I don't hear no police. Silence. Just the texture of dense, intense silence is just going to envelop you, right? Then you walk in, you're going to walk into your female dorm or your male dorm. And mind you, this is not the Ritz. This is not about lap of luxury. Y'all going to be comfortable. We're going to make sure y'all are accounted for. But you're not coming in here to watch a 70-foot TV or nothing like that, right? You coming in here to really get to the work, but still be comfortable. So you want to check into your dorms, congregate a little bit, check your phone in. You don't got to worry about the bills this weekend. You don't work, give somebody to watch your kids, right? Check your phone in. Don't even worry about your phone for the rest of the weekend. And then we get into our all white, right? Get ready for our opening ceremony. Sit down, break bread, have a beautiful vegan meal, right? Have a beautiful opening ritual to get ready for the next day of events and downloads of self-mastery that myself, Kati, and a bunch of different practitioners will be displaying. Of course, eating well throughout the day. The night closing with a pranic party, which is not a turn up. We're not going to be out there blasting trap music and all of that, but we're going to show you a different level of turn up where it doesn't have to be all this smoking and drinking and all this extra stuff for you to realize how intimate partying with Source and with each other can be. 26 acres of beautiful land. Nobody there to tell us to go home or to check out before it's just us. I mean, we looking for between 30 and 40 people for this initial one, but this land, we could have literally thousands of people out there, but we want to plant this seed, plant this nucleus. So if this sounds like something that resonates with you, of course, if you would like more information, you could reach out to myself. You could reach out to Kati. Again, August 7th tonight, so you still got a little bit of time. It's the end of the summer. You're probably planning a vacation anyway. This is one you're not going to need a vacation from when you come back home. You're going to come back home charged and empowered. The discounts. You want to talk a little bit about the discounts, and then we'll read some questions?
Yeah, so as far as the group rate, so if you know there's you, your partner, a friend, and you guys want to be and create change together, or even if you're across from each other, the discounts, we're offering a $50 discount when it's a group, meaning that you want to go ahead and make sure you got the names locked down. You'll be receiving a coupon as soon as you message me, like, all right, this is who we are, and we want to go ahead and sign up. So that right there, you'll be applied with that group discount. Again, just so y'all know, this is at a rate that is mainly to make it affordable for our community, because we're not making money off of this. This is about us, again, at a serious time where we're at right now, that we need to just come together. So that's where, like, all right, $50 off. If you know there's 2, 3, 4, 5 of y'all that wants to come, grow together, change together. And and yeah, because honestly, if you know there's 5 of y'all more coming, hey, that might be even more, but I haven't thought about it yet.
Right. Right. And we'll even do some talking between ourselves. If you may recommend somebody, we'll see what we could do with y'all on the discount for recommendations and pulling other people in. We are still looking for a few more volunteers. So if you're somebody that would like to volunteer, you will be able to experience the weekend at a discounted rate, just helping us set up, break down, set up tents, helping the chef prepare and things of this nature, wherever we would need you at. There's also an option for that where it's almost the price cut in half, and you exchanging your services and helping us facilitate this event. So there are a bunch of different ways if you can't pay the full price. And again, no disrespect to any of the white people doing it. They've been doing this forever, and salute to them because they also planted that seed. But a lot of these retreats that's going to pull in as much as we pulling in, they want to charge you thousands of dollars for a day.
Yeah.
We're literally charging under $300 for 3 days,
But
2
3 days,
nights,
2
right?
nights, yeah.
3 days, 2 nights of not only a beautiful experience, but something that's going to bleed into the rest of your life. I still don't even remember how much the weekend was, how much the flight was, how much any of those expenses was when I went to Florida. I'm sure it was a pretty penny, but I'm still reaping the benefits of what happened in that weekend. So had I had the money, it would have been more than worth it to pay whatever I needed to pay to get there. And for this, is an hour drive from Jersey, right? Hour and 20 minutes from New York. 20 minutes from Philadelphia or wherever you're coming from, it's not even that deep of a trip, and it's a beautiful ride.
Yeah.
So,
And just
so I think that's
we
it.
already have a beautiful sister that's coming out from North Carolina. So if you think the
Right,
drive is long, we got
right,
sister driving from North
exactly,
Carolina.
right,
That's what you call soul driven, being soul driven. You're following what pulls you, and that is what matters. So I want to just
right.
invite y'all, and knowing that we're going to be closing, is that if you can't make it, completely fine. But I invite y'all to really sit with who are the parts of yourself that you're still trying to learn and connect with. Who are the parts of yourself that you know is there, but for some reason you can't get a hold of? I invite you to really sit with that and ask that within your meditation. Go into your
Mm-hmm.
journaling. See how that part of yourself exists. Or perhaps it's like, I crave to have this or this, and that's a good start to see what are the cravings you have. You have it inside of you. It's not outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that we're in that space, we're in this time, and we're moving and we're rising.
Okay. So we got a few minutes left. I'm gonna read through some of the comments. Somebody said they came in late. When is this and how much? You'll see all that information on our pages. If you want us to send it to you directly, we could do that as well. But this is August, and keep in mind, somebody also said they have no more sick days. We did our best to put this on the weekend, so y'all don't got to take off work. I don't know if you work on the weekend, but this is a weekend retreat, so a lot of people won't have to figure out a sick day. But yeah, all that information will be on our pages. We'll continue to promote, and you can DM myself or Journey with Kati on Instagram personally. Silence, yes, this is definitely soul a return gift for myself. Beautiful. Just left East Stroudsburg a few weeks ago. Perfect. Thank you for providing the service, divine beings. Appreciate everybody that's watching, that's tuned in. And think about this too, right? Even if you can't necessarily make this one, if source may not align things with your desire, currency is beyond just what you're able to shell out to pay for or receive from a job or a service or a product, right? A lot of times currency is saying, you know what, I can't make this one, but I know somebody that may be able to, that may need this. Let me send this information. Source sees that. The universe sees that. Every time you hold the door open for somebody, check on somebody that you ain't heard from in a while to make sure they're good. Source opens up more portals of abundance. So even if you can't make this one, you sending it to somebody else may ensure the energy and currency you need to be able to make that next one. So don't feel down and out if you feel like you can't make this one. And as I'm reading through, you got anything you want to say, Kati?
Well, actually, I was just reading through. So someone said, where will you fly into? I think you'll fly into Newark Airport, right? Would that be like
yeah,
close to
Newark Airport would seem like there may be airports in Philly. I'm not too familiar with Philly, but a quick Google search will probably take care of that. But I would assume flying into Newark Airport will probably be best.
Yeah, because it's about an hour away from there.
Right. For the question, are babies able to come? Now we thought about it On this particular one, we just want to hone into our ability to crank these out. So going forward, we will have a whole family structure allowed to come in, but initially we want to focus on the adults. And think about it, if you got your kids with you, it's only so much focus you're going to be able to give to these techniques and to these sessions. So we want y'all to really be able to lock in. For this one, leave the babies home, get you a babysitter.
Yeah.
My brother, love and light to you, King. And again, peace in the park this Sunday. We about at about 150 people that's coming, and y'all know how I go. A lot of people get their stuff at the last minute, so we'll probably be out there 200 deep. The information is on my page. Click the link in my bio for those tickets. And once Sunday is over, I will also have a link in my bio to be able to purchase these tickets for the retreat. But I will definitely be seeing a lot of y'all on Sunday. This is necessary. Me neither. I can't wait. I know that's right.
So Friday,
yeah, that worked. Mm-hmm.
So Friday, as far as the start, like I mentioned earlier, is from just answering one of the questions as well. Mm-hmm. From 3:30 to 6:30 is the check-in. So after 6:30, that's when we're coming together and opening our ceremony, opening the ceremony for our journey, for our transformation, for our intentions. So if you're able to arrive either exactly at 6:30, great. But yeah, that's the time to check in on Friday.
And so, my brother said the irony that retreat means to go within. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? A lot of times we think about retreat going somewhere. This is bringing it back to the essence of that word of going within ourselves. And if you want to check out the land, just hit my DM. I'll tag you to one of the posts where we was up there having a meeting, you know, our crew, Zill Creative Studios, and I was just walking through the land. And you can start to get an idea of that silence, that texture, that energy that's out there, and start to realize what you really walking into if you decide to come to this.
And so on Sunday, it does end, and answering one, I believe one of the brothers or sisters that's asking about what time it's done on Sunday, it'll be over, we'll be closing about like 12. And I mean closing, that's our closing ceremony. And so you'll have at least a few hours to check out, to make sure you ground out before you head out and head back into the world. And so you're looking at checkouts about 3 o'clock. So if you find yourself, I do recommend making sure you ground out fully, which that's going to be part of our closing ceremony. We're going to have a beautiful one where we're just, we're going to be leaving with some goodness and leaving with some medicine and, leaving with more parts of you that you're going to be taking back home.
Absolutely. And to close out, we got like 2 minutes left, I think. You know how Instagram do. This is voting time, right? Kanye out here, doing some craziness as usual. But beyond just a lot of times voting, to me, from my perspective, still do it if you feel compelled to do it, but it's like giving your power to change to somebody else and saying, here, do this for me. This type of voting, signing up for this type of event, telling somebody about it, promoting it, or pouring into the support for our team of practitioners to continue to crank these things out is a level of voting that gives the power back to us as individuals, as friends, families, and communities. And we got 5 seconds left. So love and light.